Oof, what a match! Since I've joined the Elven Union, I feel like my abilities have reached their peak. Yeah. You just needed a sample of Dark Elf brutality. I couldn't agree more. By the way, nice scarf for yours. Where did you get that? You weren't wearing it yesterday. Oh, this one. I bought it from a local merchant. Do you like it? It's not my thing, but it suits you very well. Come on. Let's do some stretches before our next match starts. Attention citizens, we are happy to announce the match between the Elven Union and the Lizardmen has been cancelled. Apparently one of the members from the Lizardmen team has gone missing. Sorry for the inconvenience. We will inform you with any updates regarding this issue. Oh, what a shame! What could possibly... Mihrai? Where did you get that pelt? At the local market, I've told you. Are you sure? What do you mean? I mean... You are a... Dark Elf? Is that what you mean? Just because my people wear big red tiled clothes, doesn't mean I took part in those practices. You are being drukiphobic. Okay, I'm sorry. Guess you're right. Yes? Can we focus on our exercise and pretend this never happened?
Attention, citizens! We are proceeding to close the stadium gates. Nobody can leave or enter the arena until light has been brought to this issue. The Lizard's star player has been found dead inside a locker skinned alive. Everybody should remain on their seats awaiting orders.
Okay, it was totally me. Bye, see ya!
Hello everyone and welcome back to another tutorial. Today is the day we begin our long journey. We are going to be learning how to sculpt scales and the different ways to approach them. In part 1 we are going to be covering basic flat scales. It is a technique that can be applied to any surface. But we are going to spice things a bit and we are going to directly craft a pelt out of greenstuff. Scales are very time consuming. The one shown in this video took me around 30 minutes of just prepping the pelt. I've seen people use different types of texture transfers, but in my opinion they don't hold the scales tight enough, especially if you end up stretching your pelt. Also, I'm not a big fan of starting a tutorial by buy this product, but if you wish to save some time at the expense of losing a little detail, texture rolls are a viable choice for you. So, it is time to begin our journey. I went for a dig into my pile of shame to retrieve this conversion I did for Blood Bowl in 2016. It is a Dark Elf Blitzer and will be our assistant in this video. Let's begin this tutorial by mixing a 60-40 mix of greenstuff. Yellow always first. Looking back, I well overestimated the amount of putty I would need for it, so you are good with half the amount shown in this video. Before anything, wash your hands and make sure there are no pieces of fabric from the towel on your fingertips. Those can really mess up with your mix. Dip your fingers gently in water. It will become easier to manage and the putty will become less sticky. When it feels kind of homogenic, take a piece of woven paper, the waxy one, with no patterns. Help it spread a bit with your fingers prior to laying it on the paper. We want to make a thin sheet of green stuff, so this helps us by not having to drag around so much mass. Fold the paper and use whatever roll you have available to spread it. I don't like using big rolls because the amount of pressure I can apply is lesser the bigger the contact surface is. The edges of the sheet tend to be thinner than the center, so apply bigger force on the center and release it while approaching the edges. This way we will end up somewhat with the same thickness in the wall area. Make sure to not leave any wrinkles and try to fix any other visible effects. The main reason we are using woven paper is because it is a non-sticky surface from which we can stick the green stuff later before it completely dries. We are going to unstick one of these eyes super fast and a clock starts running. We should get our pelt ready in under 30 to 40 minutes. By adding more yellow to the mix, we might have gained those extra 10 minutes. I wouldn't advise to add more yellow because it would be too unreliable to work with. The reason we are limited in time is because by the end we finish sculpting our pelt, we want for it to keep a kinda good stickiness. We don't want to press our pelt too much or else we might erase all the detail. Can you see those extra thin areas I'm pointing out with my tool? Those need to go. They are too thin and will not hold the pattern very well. So it is better to cut them off at the beginning. Compare it with your miniature so you can get a better idea of the size you are aiming for. Using a needle, we are going to plan our pelt by scratching the surface very gently. After that, I'm going to divide it in sections or rows wider towards the center. Here you can see my final plan. I wasn't joking when I said I used way too much green stuff. It is time now to define the outer shape of these scales. Look at this for references. They should keep rather a polygonal shape, but with no so sharp edges. For this I'm using my custom sculpting tool, but don't get too trapped on it. People tend to believe they won't be able to achieve good results if they are not using the best tool. But for this step you could be using a seaweed needle, a sculpting hook, a hobby knife, or whatever you find suitable for you. When defining the rows, advance in a random way. Don't make them too straight or they will look unnatural. Everything should grow from the main row, but don't try to make the pattern look like a beehive. Instead, try throwing a few smaller scales on the intersections for a more realistic feel. Here you can see the progress so far. Now I will flatten the outer skin to make it clear where lays the border between the skin and the scales. Next, what we are gonna do is define the scales better. But isn't that what we already did? Yes and no. Now what I want you to do is to adjust the height of the bigger scales. This is what happens when you press fresh green stuff. The younger the beauty is, more mass will be pushed towards the cut. This is usually a bad thing to happen. But in this case, that is exactly what we are looking for and we are going to emphasize just that. We want to sharpen those edges. Here you can see them side by side. What I'm going to show you next is optional. We are going to texture the scales at the expense of losing detail. For that purpose in mind, you can use a cheap toothbrush, but I prefer using a scratch brush as it focuses on a smaller area. Don't scratch the scales for too long as all the detail will start to fade away. This shows the importance of the previous step about defining the scales. This way we can keep a decent amount of detail while having a good texture at the same time. I will make a few corrections here and there on those scales that might have fused together. Then what I like to do is to take a burnisher and pick 3 or 4 scales and make them concave. Probably I should have done this prior to the texturing, but yeah. Next I'm going to pick some green stuff from my absolute unit of excessive beauty. We are going to conceal the border between the scales and the skin by adding some islands? Yes, we will call them islands. We are going to place some of them on top of the skin areas, but don't put too much of them or else it will defeat their purpose. Then it is time to cut the pelt. In order to make it look like it has been torn apart, we are going to press our tool and pull it until it breaks. Around 30 minutes deep, we should stop working on the pelt. I'm happy with the results anyways, so let's take a hobby knife and cut the paper around it. I like to cut a strap for me to hold it without risking to touch it, because if you do, oh boy, you are fucked. I will begin to peel it off. Use abundant water to help it unstick from the paper. I don't want to peel it off completely as I might risk for it to fall into itself. I don't want to lose control over it. Only unstick it to a point where you can peel the rest by pulling the paper. Place the pelt on the contact surface and gently press it against it. Try to avoid pressing between two scales. Always reach for the flat areas. Once it's set, keep peeling it with the help of your tool. Remember to use a lot of water for this. If we leave any marks, we will be able to fix them later once it dries completely by filling the scratches with fresh green stuff. Looking back, I was a little too conservative. I should have peeled it a bit more. Once it's done, as expected, the mix is too fresh and can't maintain shape on its own. So how can I make dynamic folds if it's too weak? Don't worry, I have a solution for that. We are going to roll pieces of open paper and use them as resting points for our pelt. After that, it is safe to leave it curing for 24 hours. I wasn't convinced with how the scales were resting on his back, so I went in and extended the pelt so it would cover over his shoulder pad. I also sculpted new scales using the method we have learned through this video. This also shows we can make adjustments in a second session.
Our Dark Elf Blitzer is now ready to smash skulls on the field in complete fashion. This is not the only way of doing scales, but it is the quickest. It can be applied directly to any surface, like shoulder pads, shins, or any other kind of plate armor. For the advanced one, I still have to teach you other things first, like how to make cloaks, bulky scales and such. Consider this an introduction to that so you can start practicing.
Thanks to everyone for following through this video. If you have any question regarding this tutorial, leave it in the comment section down below. Don't miss on part 2 in a couple of weeks, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Do check my Patreon if you need some direct help, or if you wish to fund my plastic crack addiction. That's good shit. Until next time, I've been Obsessive Converter.